still, my soul, the Lord is on thy side. With patience bear thy cross of grief for pain. Leave to thy God to order and provide. In every change he faithful will remain. Be still, my soul, my best, my heavenly friend. Through thorny ways leads to a joyful land. Be still, my soul, thy God doth undertake to guide the future as he has the past. Thy hope, thy confidence, let nothing shake. All now mysterious shall be bright at last. Be still, my soul, the waves and winds still know. His voice who ruled them while he dwelt below. Be still, my soul. Be still, my soul. Be still, my soul. Be still, my soul, the hour is hastening on, when we shall be forever with the Lord. When 'tis disappointment, grief, and fear are gone, sorrow forgot, love's purest joys restored. Be still, my soul, when change and tears are past. All safe and blessed, we shall meet at last. Thank you for joining me again. I'm Jonathan Michael, and welcome to episode 2 of The Sacred Project. Today, I'm at Manresa Jesuit Spiritual Renewal Center in Pickering, Ontario. The center's primary mission is to provide a peaceful and reflective environment for individuals seeking spiritual growth, renewal, and deepening of their faith. On today's episode, I will be speaking with Father Michael Coutts, who will be providing insight about finding faith and healing in the face of loss. Come join us.
Thank you for joining me today, Father Coutts, for discussing a topic that is rather difficult for some, especially in dealing with loss and especially loss of a loved one. So thank you for joining me and being our guest today. As a priest, I'm sure you've had to deal with individuals who come to you questioning their faith and wanting spiritual guidance, especially after dealing with a tragedy. How do you help a family make sense of the loss of a loved one, especially a loss that is sudden and unexpected?
Well, at the moment you said loved one, immediately my mind went into 3 different categories. But let me go back a little. When I did my theology and philosophy in 1966 to 1964 to 1967, and again from 70 to 73, we had nothing about grief counseling or anything of that sort.
Okay.
I learned it on the go. We had a parish of about 10,000 people.
Right.
Only 1,000 would come for Mass, but the fact that we had a parish of 10,000, it meant we had to bury whoever died.
Right.
On an average, we had 50 a year, sometimes even more than that.
Right.
And it is from these people, from the priests and the lay people that were there, that I began to learn how to deal myself with my own baggage and with helping others. Some of them were very good and helped me, and they said, what you said was very consoling. And then there were others who said, you should have kept quiet, just be there. So they were God's gift to me in this ministry.
Right.
All right? So when I speak about loved one, first of all, I speak about a baby. Then I speak about a young couple who has lost a spouse.
Right.
And finally, an elderly couple. Each of these have got a different ambience altogether. For example, when you have a miscarriage, the last thing you need to tell a couple is, don't worry, you can have another one.
Right.
Again, you have to look at the couple. They are a young couple, and they are a couple who are in their 40s. This was their only chance. When the child has miscarried, very often both the mother and the father have deep grief, but it is the mother most often. Mm-hmm. Not only will she grieve about it, she will give a name to the child. And the best way to deal with it, I found, is to have a little service for them. And they feel that they haven't totally grasped the loss, but that is a great sense of strength and hope. Right. Now, if they do not have a background of faith, as I said, 10,000 in the parish, 1,000 and come regularly. If they don't have, it is surprising that even if they don't practice regularly, if I suggest, let us say, a prayer, a service, they're grasping on to little straws, actually. Right. And they're most happy to have that. Now, when you speak about a loved one with a young couple, for instance, a husband or a wife dies in a tragic accident, it is more difficult to deal with cases like that because there are no answers. You have a sense of denial. This is not happening, even though you could see the body there. Mm-hmm. Then a sense of anger. Then they sort of bargain with one another. Bargain with God, bargain with themselves, bargain with the church, bargain with their family. Mm-hmm. Then they go into a depression, I find. And they do not know. There's a sense of bewilderness and loss. And then finally they say, this is the reality. We have to go on with the flow. Now, this is taken from a very classical author, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who's written about death and dying.
Right.
But from a Christian point of view, and there is another sense after that, namely a sense of doubt. Does God really care for me? God said that he will protect me, and he's taken away my husband, he's taken away my child. Right. then there is a sense of, well, God has given me so many good things. As Job would say, God has given me all these gifts. When God takes them away, who am I to complain? All right? And finally, there's a sense of, you know what? We will all rejoice one day in heaven. Now, this happens when people have faith. What happens when you're an agnostic or even an atheist? That is more difficult to deal with. I usually then hand them over to a counselor more than anything else, right from the beginning. Because I'm like a GP, a general practitioner as a priest.
Right.
I don't have the skills and the techniques. But I have learned also that you stand over there and you wait with them. Sometimes they get so upset and worried that they won't want to have any dealings with anybody. Nobody touched me. Neither their siblings nor their relatives, least of all the clergy. But there are others who are in total grief and they'll just simply come and throw themselves at you. Right. Be aware of that. And I was aware of that. And at that time, I had two things in mind. Be very respectful for this man or this woman who has lost a spouse, and be very, very professional.
Right.
Especially in the light of the present day, what's happening within the church. This is so vital and important. And at that sense, you have a sense that, yeah, I can deal with this.
Right.
And finally, I come to a loved one, which is a person who has lived together, like my parents. They were married for 60 years. My father died at 93.
Oh.
My mother died at 94.
Oh.
All right?
Oh.
There's a different sense. There is a sense of loss. It's almost like an amputation of a hand.
Right.
I've been with this person for so long, and this person is not there. You reach out to them. I find that men in most of these cases would like just to go down to the coffee shop with their fellow buddies and just sit down and chat and talk. Women, I found from my own experience with my mother, they like to be taken out, buy a new dress, get their hair done, go to a cinema, go to something that will allow them to speak all the things that are going on within them. Now, these are generalizations,
Right.
Okay? So I cannot go more with that because I might be way out of in the left field with this regard. But this is the way I've dealt with it most of the time, and I found that it works.
Right. In your experience, what are some of the common emotions that people face when dealing with grief and the loss of faith?
Well, I would say that in dealing with grief and loss of faith, it's more or less like being told that you've got cancer. The first thing is, no, it's not possible. This isn't possible. And even though you can see the body over there, it's a sense of denial almost. And then an anger. If this is the God that loves me and cares for me, why did he take such a loved one away from me? Right. In cases like this, the worst thing that I can do is to start giving them reasons, because it's emotions that are involved. They don't want logic. They want to be reassured. They want to be affirmed in their faith. And now, if they don't have any faith at all, very often all that you can do is be with them.
Right.
And remain in silence with them. Let them talk. You can bring this out by, do a little bit of research before. What is the person really interested in? And then talk about some of those things. Dangle them like a bait in front of them. And then once they start talking, it's all the grief that comes out. They just keep on talking. Right. And that time, I have to be very careful about all things like they will relate to my own loss and my own baggage, and I have to be very sharp to realize that I'm not going to dump on them at this time. This time, the best thing to do is to be quiet.
Right.
Yeah.
And you talked about anger, but how can someone reconcile their feelings of anger or doubt with their religious beliefs?
Oof. I went through that same thing myself when, I lost somebody that I loved so much and they passed away. I don't really have an answer for that. For that, It's simply patience. It's like having an open wound or having a heart attack
Right.
or having a stroke. You work with it. And the hardest thing at that time is patience,
Right.
you know? And the one way you can help them along is by being with them. That's what they need. They need somebody to affirm what they are doing. They need somebody to say, well, I can rely on you. And because you're here, everything will be all right. Now, they don't say that,
Right.
but it is at the back of their minds,
Right.
you know? And you always have to pick on their circumstances. You know, if the person is an only child, for instance, they don't have very much to lean on.
Right.
Like in the case when my mother and father died, I had all my brothers, I had my cousins. That grief was there, but you know, it was a celebration more than a grief. When you have a person who is a single child, the doubts and anger, they're more difficult to deal with.
Right.
Now, that's my own small experience. I'm not a professional counselor, so don't quote me on that.
Right. Right.
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well, it is well with my soul. Though Satan should buffet, though trial should come, let this blessed assurance control, that Christ has regarded my helpless estate and has shed his own blood for my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. My sin, oh, the bliss of His glorious love. My sin, not in part, but the whole, is nailed to the cross, and I bear it no more. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, oh my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul.
So how would you address the question of why a loving God allows suffering and death?
I don't. I let them deal with it.
Right.
All right. I try to figure out what is going on in their mind. If, again, I would refer to, are they practicing in their faith, or they're atheistic or agnostic?
Right.
If they are atheistic or agnostic, like I have among my own family, there is not much that I can do. I just sit down and listen and talk to them. Actually, they do not deal with doubts of a loving God, because there is no God in their way of thinking.
Right.
I'm speaking about those who do believe. In that case, I very often would stress on all the great good things that God has given them, without preaching to them. You have to be very careful.
Right.
You know, you stress about, you ask them to bring out all the good things that has happened. And the best way to do it is to recall memories of the one that they have lost. You know, you speak about his or her talents,
Right.
his or her kindness and reaching out to others, his or her perhaps being a very introverted person, into arts and nature and things that they didn't come forward. It would be like they were people that you'd go into a room and not even notice if they were there.
Right.
So you have these two types of people. And if you're going to deal with a person who is gregarious and people who want to talk a lot, then give them the chance to speak about it. And you will find that they will have a sense of anger towards that God. Let them talk, all right? Let them talk, because they will have anger against God, against themselves, against their siblings, against everybody. But it is not really an anger which is going to be devastating in the sense that they're going to do any harm. It's just an expression of emotions that are going on within their hearts.
Right.
For women indifferent, I found that, you know, when they have lost this loved one, they are easier to accept the fact, all right, God has given me all these good things. I had a good life with this person
Right.
for so long, with my husband, with my children. It still hurts deep down, but I am glad and I'm grateful. So I have less problem with women in dealing with a loving God and their doubts than with men. Men are will be introverted, they'll just shut down, they
Right.
will just close up, I found, from my experience. Again, as I said, I'm not a professional counselor.
Right. So what advice would you offer to somebody who is struggling with their faith and feeling angry towards God in the aftermath of a loss? And how can they find hope and healing in their relationship with God during such a challenging period?
Okay. The first thing is the person who is does not believe in God, who's an atheist or an agnostic, does not have any of that problem.
Right.
They just simply believe this is karma, this is the way life is, we die and there's nothing more after that.
Right.
I don't have to deal with that. They might be angry, and they're angry more with the person who has died. You should have been there to be for me.
Right.
Why did you go ahead? That's the only anger that I have experienced from people who are like that. But a person who believes actually in God, there is an occasion for them to make this, that, something very special and to grow spiritually. But I won't advise them, you know, and just preaching to them or giving them advice. I like to draw it out of them, and they can see it themselves. I invite them to think of all the good things that have happened in relationship with their husband, with their wife, with their children, with their parents, whoever has died. And if they are the silent type, they'll just say yes, no, yes, no. Then that becomes very difficult. Right. I'm out of my depth with that. But sometimes when you get them to talk, they are like an open tap and they will talk nonstop. That is the time when they get out all the anger and the grief that they have in one way. And believe me, it does not happen just on one day. It has to happen again and again and again. And so I tell very often my friends who have lost relatives, call me. Talk to me. I don't feel like dumping on you. They said, you know, I said, but that's what a friend is for, you know, to talk. And I found that talking is good. I also asked them what is their favorite form of spirituality, whether they like to pray, whether they like to walk into nature, whether they like to, recite the rosary, which some of them have great consolation. I do. And then I pray the rosary sometime with them. In fact, that's what I did with my aunt when she lost her husband. And she said that was the greatest consolation she had.
Right.
She never felt angry with God in the sense that God let her down, but felt angry with her husband rather. Why did you leave me and let me manage all myself? You did all the work and you managed everything.
Right.
So I had to figure out where the anger was. And when it came that there was no anger with God, I just let them be where they felt they would like to be, going for Mass, saying the rosary, walking in nature, painting, whatever they want to do. And they found that there was a great deal of healing within themselves.
Right. I was just wondering if you're able to share any personal stories or experiences where you witnessed individuals finding healing and renewed faith after the loss of a loved one, and what were some of the factors or practices that contributed to their journey of healing?
Well, one of the things I can say is I had a friend of mine, a fellow Jesuit actually, he had just joined the Jesuits and came from a large family, and his father and mother died at the age of 24, 25, when he was 24, 25. And there was a great deal of anger and resentment over there. He found it very difficult to deal with the fact that his parents had gone. And the one thing he said to me, I'm an orphan. Who's going to take care of me?
Right.
All right. He was lucky to be in the religious order, so we as a community bonded with him. There were some of them in the community that helped him along. In my own case, my mom and dad died, as I said, in their 90s.
Right.
I had lived with them. I had left them actually when I joined the seminary at the age of 16. So I didn't form a bond that was deep within them and an encounter as between father and son, mother and son. But they were more friends with me.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I also came from a large family of brothers. And my youngest brother, when my father died, for instance, he simply said, about a month before he died, he says, has God forgotten me? My mind is absolutely as clear as possible, but my body is not working. Right. So I can't get up and walk. My heart is giving me trouble. My stomach is giving me trouble. Has God forgotten me? So when he died, it was a celebration for me.
Right.
But my brother cried very bitterly because he was so much a part of my father's life, and my father was so much a part of his life. He was only 40. I was 60 at that time.
Wow. Okay.
All right. There's another case that I can remember where a husband and wife, they had been together for about 60 years, and the husband died, and the wife lived for 20 years more. Right. And for 20 years, she would call me every year on the day that the husband died. I celebrated a Mass for her, but she would call me periodically, and I found that that was the way she dealt with her own grief. Right. Now, she was lucky to be able to make those calls because it was a long distance call.
Right.
But other than that, I have a lot of experiences, but I can't pull them out of the air just now. Just to say, well, that would be a good case, or that would be these are the experiences that I have. And very often it will be when I'm dealing with a person. Like when I was a parish priest, there was a group of women, 3 or 4 of them, who were helping to decorate the altar. And I made the mistake of forgetting the name of one of them when I thanked them at Christmas.
Right.
Well, she didn't want to have anything to do with me at all. Right. And so when she went to the hospital and she was dying, she said, I don't want Coots, I will take anybody else. All right. Wow. The ironic thing was she was a woman of deep faith. And there was a conversion experience. And so finally, it went the other way about. I don't want anybody, but I want Father Coots to come here. And I was there at her bedside when she died. Right. In the hospital. And, you could almost see a glow about her. Many people say, I see an aura and I see all this. No, I didn't see any of that. But I had a sense that, there was doubts about God and faith. Then there was a sort of bargaining. And then finally, it is all right. The ecstasy, as one of Catherine Singh would say in her book.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any specific resources or support groups that you could recommend for those dealing with grief?
Here at Manresa, we have people who are counselors, and very often if somebody is grieving about death, I will recommend them to the counselors here at Manresa itself. Mm-hmm. We have 3 of them over here. But we also have a day in which we express our grief. We celebrate the life of the person that have died. Right. And we bring mementos and pictures and photographs, and we share with it. Now, I like to do that at least 2 or 3 times a year. We do it only in November at the time when, the remembrance of the dead soon right. after that. But that's one. The Archdiocese of Toronto has a group as well. I do not deal with the Archdiocese of Toronto because I've got these here with me. Right. So there are those. And of course, you can pay for counselors. Mm-hmm. And I've known 1 or 2 counselors, but they're very expensive. So most of the people that I deal with are not deep pockets. So.
Right. So I understand that there is a poem that you brought today that you felt was relevant on the topic that we were discussing that you wanted to read.
Yes. You just don't lose someone once. You lose them over and over, sometimes in the same day. When the loss, momentarily forgotten, creeps up and attacks you from behind, fresh waves of grief as the realization hits home, they are gone again. You just don't lose someone once. You lose them every time you open your eyes to a new dawn. And as you awaken, so does your memory. So does the jolting bolt of lightning that rips your heart. They are gone again. Losing someone is a journey, not a one-off. There is no end to the loss. There is only a learned skill on how to stay afloat. When it washes over, be kind to those who are sailing this stormy sea. They have a journey ahead of them and a daily shock to the system each time they realize they are gone again. You just don't lose someone once, you lose them every day for a lifetime. Time does not heal the passing of somebody. It only helps you to deal with them. They will always be a part of your life.
Thank you, Father Coutts, for sharing that poem with us. And thank you very much for being my guest today on this episode of The Sacred Project. Thank you as well for watching. And we hope that you will join us next week for episode 3. Thank you.
May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be ever at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, the rains fall soft upon your fields, and until we meet again, and until we meet again, may God in the palm of his hand. May the sun make your days bright. May the stars illuminate your night. May the flowers bloom along your path, your house stand firm against the storm, and until again, and until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of His hand.
Thank you for being part of the Sacred Project journey. Your support means the world. To help contribute to the creation of more episodes, please visit our website at thesacredproject.ca. You can also explore and obtain music from the series by visiting thesacredproject.ca. If you'd like to experience these beautiful hymns live in concert, come join us on these special dates. For more details and ticket information, visit thesacredproject.ca. Let's continue the musical journey together. See you at the concerts.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.